There is a moment in life when everything that once felt solid begins to fall apart. It doesn't happen with a loud crash. There's no dramatic music, no advance warning. Just one day, you realize that what you built your security on is no longer there. The job that defined your identity disappears. The relationship that felt eternal comes to an end. The carefully made plans no longer make sense, and then a question arises that few can answer without hesitation. Who are you when everything you owned ceases to exist? Most people think they know the answer. They say they are strong, determined, independent. But those certainties usually only survive as long as life remains comfortable. It's easy to feel confident when everything goes as planned. It's simple to talk about courage when there is no fear. The real test never happens on peaceful days. It shows up when reality strips away everything that was holding up the image we built of ourselves. Perhaps that's why the history of humanity was never written only by the winners. It was moments of crisis that revealed the true character of great men and women. Entire empires disappeared, believing they would be eternal. Kings lost their thrones. Fortunes were destroyed in a matter of days. Civilizations that seemed invincible turned into silent ruins. The only constant has always been change. And yet, we insist on living as if we were protected from it. We live in an era that idolizes control. We organize every minute of the day. We plan the future. We accumulate resources. We protect material possessions. And we believe that if we do everything the right way, we will be safe. However, it takes just one unexpected event to realize that we never really controlled the world around us. One phone call completely changes the course of life. One diagnosis transforms priorities. One loss makes what seemed indispensable disappear. The problem is not in losing something. The real danger is discovering that your identity depended completely on what was lost. How many people stop believing in their own worth after losing a job? How many start to see their own life as a failure because a relationship ended? How many confuse the end of a chapter with the end of who they really are? These questions are uncomfortable because they expose a fragility hidden under years of routine. For a long time, we learned to measure our value by the recognition of others. Success came to define our importance. Approval became a silent necessity. We built a version of ourselves based on results, status, and other people's opinions. But there's a detail we rarely notice. Everything that depends on circumstances also disappears when circumstances change. The ancient philosophers understood this long before our time. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, knowing that not even the most powerful man in the world could prevent disease, war, or death. Epictetus was born a slave and discovered that true freedom did not depend on the chains that bound his body, but on the way he chose to respond to suffering. Seneca lived surrounded by wealth and influence, but he never stopped reminding himself that everything we possess can be taken from us without warning. These men were not seeking a life without difficulties. They were looking for something much more valuable, an inner place that no tragedy could reach. They understood that whoever builds their identity only on what they possess lives permanently threatened. It's enough to lose a single pillar for the entire structure to collapse. It is precisely at this point that Viktor Frankl emerges. Before the world knew him as a psychiatrist and writer, he was just an ordinary man, full of dreams, projects, and expectations. Like anyone else, he imagined that the future would be a natural continuation of the present. But history had other plans. In a matter of months, everything that was part of his life disappeared. His profession ceased to exist. His belongings were confiscated. His family was separated. His name was replaced by a number. It would be easy to believe that his story ended there. After all, What remains when everything has been ripped away? What is left when even dignity seems to have been destroyed? Perhaps that is the most important question anyone can face, because sooner or later, life will ask it of each of us. No matter your age, your profession, or your financial condition, at some point, something that seemed indispensable will be lost. The difference lies in the answer. Some allow pain to destroy who they are. Others discover, precisely in the darkest moment, a strength they never imagined they had. And it is exactly at this point that Viktor Frankl's greatest discovery begins. Not a theory created inside a university, nor an idea developed in a therapist's office, but a truth found when all illusions had disappeared. A truth capable of completely transforming the way we see suffering, freedom, and the meaning of existence itself. From the instant when everything that supported your old identity disappears, a silent choice begins to be made. It doesn't happen in front of other people, nor does it receive applause. It is an invisible decision, made inside your own consciousness. Many believe that this decision depends on physical strength, intelligence, or luck. Viktor Frankl discovered that it does not. It depends on the meaning each person gives to what they are living through. Two individuals can go through the same tragedy and come out completely different from it. One becomes a prisoner of pain. The other transforms pain into direction. The difference was never just in the suffering, but in how it was interpreted. See how this happens in ordinary life. Imagine someone who dedicated 20 years to the same company. All that time, they believed their worth was tied to the position they held, to the respect they received from colleagues, and to the recognition earned through work. Then, in a single meeting, it all ends. The company cuts costs, the projects are over, and they go home carrying a box with their personal belongings. The job is gone, but the real shock isn't financial. The thought that follows them on the way home is something else. Who am I now? The salary can be recovered. Another opportunity will come along. The problem is that their identity was also fired that day. Something similar happens when a relationship ends. For years, someone builds dreams, habits, and plans alongside another person. Suddenly, silence takes the place of conversations. The house feels bigger than before, and every object brings back memories. The absence hurts, but there is an even deeper pain. It appears when the person realizes they no longer know how to live without what they believed was indispensable. It is in that moment that many confuse love with dependence, companionship with identity, and loss with the end of their own story. Frankl realized that life always puts us in front of these little deaths. Not all of them happen in extreme circumstances. Some arise in the most ordinary routine. A project fails. A friend drifts away. A child grows up and goes their own way. Parents grow old. The body changes. Time passes without asking permission. Each change takes with it a part of what we thought we controlled. And curiously, the more we try to prevent these transformations, the greater the suffering tends to be. Modern society taught us to seek happiness above all else. We are encouraged to avoid discomfort, eliminate difficulties, and run away from any experience that causes pain. Just observe how we react to the small annoyances of everyday life. A few minutes stuck in traffic seem enough to ruin the whole day's mood. A criticism received at work keeps occupying the mind for hours. An ignored post on social media is enough to cause insecurity. We live surrounded by resources that should make our existence easier, but we have never been so emotionally vulnerable. Perhaps this happens because we confuse comfort with fulfillment. Comfort reduces effort. Fulfillment gives meaning to effort. They are completely different things. A comfortable life can be empty. A difficult life can be deeply meaningful. Frankl understood this difference when he noticed that some people managed to hold on to hope even when there was no apparent reason for it. They weren't ignoring reality. They weren't pretending everything was fine. They just found a reason to keep walking, even without knowing when the walk would end. Nietzsche once wrote that he who has a reason to live can bear almost any circumstance. Frankl didn't just believe in that idea, he witnessed it daily. He discovered that human beings can endure much more than they imagine when there is a purpose waiting for them on the other side of pain. This purpose doesn't need to be grandiose. Sometimes it takes the form of a reunion, a promise made to someone, a mission not yet fulfilled, or simply the decision not to allow suffering to have the final word. But there is a detail that completely transforms this reflection. No one can give you this purpose. Not a philosopher, not a religious leader, not a psychologist, not even the people who love you most. The meaning of life never comes ready-made. It needs to be discovered and, above all, chosen. That is exactly why two people living in similar situations see completely different realities. One constantly asks why this happened. The other begins to ask what this experience can be for. This shift in perspective seems small, but it changes the entire direction of existence. Those who ask why tend to remain stuck in the past, looking for someone to blame and trying to rebuild something that no longer exists. Those who ask what for start looking ahead, looking for a way to transform their own pain into growth. The suffering is still there, but it stops being just a sentence. It becomes a severe teacher, yet capable of revealing aspects of your personality that would never appear on calm days. Perhaps that is exactly what life is trying to show you right now. The events that have most shaken your story may not have come only to destroy your plans. Perhaps they came to destroy the limited version you had of yourself, because there is a strength that remains hidden as long as everything is going well. It only appears when there is nothing left to trust except your own consciousness. It is precisely in this space, where all certainties disappear, that Viktor Frankl found the discovery that would forever change the way we understand human freedom. There comes a time when all philosophy stops being just knowledge and becomes a choice. Books can inspire, masters can guide, and great thinkers can light the way. But there is a door that no one can walk through for you. It only opens when life demands a concrete answer, not an answer written down, not a pretty phrase to share. An answer given through the most silent attitudes, those that no one sees, but that shape the man you are becoming. Perhaps while listening to this story, you remembered some moment when you believed that everything was over. Perhaps it was the loss of someone important, a professional failure, an illness, a disappointment, or a dream that never happened. In that instant, it seemed impossible to imagine that there was still any meaning in continuing. But look at your own journey. You are here. You breathe. You keep walking. That means there is inside you a strength that you may have never fully realized. Most people spend their lives waiting for circumstances to change to finally find peace. They tell themselves they will be happy when they achieve a certain goal, when they solve all their financial problems, when they find the right person, or when life goes back to how it was before. But there is a hidden trap in that thought. Life never stays the same for very long. As soon as one problem disappears, another appears. As soon as one goal is reached, a new challenge shows up. Whoever makes their peace conditional on circumstances hands over control of their own existence to chance. Viktor Frankl understood that true freedom is born exactly where the illusion of absolute control ends. He did not choose the difficulties he faced. He also did not choose the losses he suffered. But he discovered that there was still something that no one could decide in his place, how he would respond to all of it. This discovery seems simple, but it completely changes the way we see life. It gives us back a responsibility that we often try to avoid. Every day we are placed before this responsibility. When someone offends us, we choose between feeding resentment or preserving our peace. When a plan fails, we choose between giving up or starting over. When fear appears, we choose between allowing it to guide our steps or moving forward despite it. These choices seem small, almost insignificant. However, they are what build our character. It is not the big decisions made once or twice in a lifetime that define who we are. It is the small acts repeated daily, often without anyone noticing. Imagine two people walking the same road in a heavy storm. Both face the same wind, the same rain, and the same cold. The difference is that one believes the storm proves that life is against them. The other understands that the storm is part of the journey and keeps walking. Neither of them controls the weather, but both control the interpretation they make of it. That is exactly where the final freedom described by Frankl is born. This does not mean ignoring pain. It means preventing it from becoming the only narrative of your existence. Suffering is part of the human condition. Remaining stuck in suffering is a choice that, many times, we make without realizing it. The past may explain many wounds, but it does not have to determine the rest of the journey. There is a huge difference between carrying scars and living chained to them. Scars tell a story. Chains prevent a new story from being written. Perhaps the most important question is not what happened to me, but who am I becoming because of what happened to me? This change in perspective completely transforms the way we face challenges. Instead of waiting for life to be fair, we start to ask how we can respond with dignity to what it puts in front of us. Instead of seeking an existence without difficulties, we begin to build a mind capable of going through them without losing its own essence. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the obstacle can become the way. Jung taught that what we face consciously stops controlling us. Nietzsche said that he who finds a reason to live can bear almost any circumstance. Frankl brought all these truths together into a single discovery. Between what happens to us and how we react, there is a space, and it is within that space that the greatest freedom a human being can possess lies. Perhaps you cannot immediately change the circumstances of your life. Perhaps there are problems that will still be there tomorrow. Perhaps some answers will still take a while to arrive. But today, you can start to change the way you respond to them. You can decide that you will no longer allow fear to determine your choices. You can decide that pain will no longer be just a bitter memory and will become a starting point for a stronger version of yourself. You can decide that your identity will no longer depend on positions, money, recognition, or approval, but on the principles you choose to live by every day. This decision does not happen just once. It needs to be renewed every morning, in every difficulty, in every disappointment, in every moment when life tries to convince you that you have lost everything. Because as long as there is freedom to choose your attitude, you will never have lost what truly matters. Now I want to leave you with a question. If everything that is part of your life today disappeared tomorrow, what would remain intact inside you? Think about this honestly. Perhaps this answer will reveal much more about who you are than any material achievement. If this video made you reflect, leave your support. Like this content so that this message reaches more people. Write in the comments, even anonymously, just one word: freedom. Let it be a commitment to yourself to never hand over to events the power to define who you are. And if you want to continue this journey of self-knowledge, philosophy, and inner strengthening, subscribe to the channel, and walk with us in the next episodes. Because truth does not exist to comfort us. It exists to set us free.